Alright, well, it says we're live, so we're live. Sorry for the dim lighting, it's probably best. So, I'm just going to go through some cheap used electric cars because I've gotten absolutely sick of people on Twitter or, whatever saying how expensive they are. Now, there's like any other car, there's caveats. I mean, the batteries get older, it could be expensive to fix, but, generally speaking, like electric motors don't wear out. There's a lot that you don't have to do, like there's no timing belt or oil changes or fuel filters or any of that stuff. And the batteries probably aren't going to fail outright because it's like your cell phone. Your battery just gets less and less capacity over time. I've got a Nissan Leaf that I think I have around 70% of the capacity that I had roughly 90,000 miles ago. Not horrible, and that's probably going to be the worst of the bunch that I'm going to talk about there, and more on that later. Uh, that's one of the caveats on Leaf, which is why we're here. We're here to talk about kind of like some ins and outs, and apologies, my wife's doing something in the other room. Kind of the ins and outs of each model and what maybe if I was going to go buy one, I would look for today. Actually, let me do this real quick. Let's look at the Aptera. The Aptera is not available yet, but if you're still on the fence after over a decade of the Aptera.com, I think it's .us, over a decade after the Nissan Leaf came out, which to me that's like the first production car because it was Nissan and you could basically, say give me one and order it and get it reasonably quick. So I consider myself personally the Nissan Leaf 2011. Yes, 2011. I think we're coming up on the 2023 model years. We're 12 years into the Nissan Leaf, so this is not new anymore. Shouldn't be news to anyone. I've been rocking mine since 2014. I bought mine for $16,000 with only 8,100 miles on it. They did a battery recall because the early batteries suffered from heat degradation. I guess we can just go right into the caveat on the Nissan Leaf. So they changed the chemistry and stuff and gave me a new battery. I got mine. I put 36,000 miles on the other batteries, so around 44,000 miles. They gave me a brand new battery, no cost, pretty quickly. And then, back in business, I've got like 133,000 miles on it now. So I've put 125,000 miles total on the car myself, and that's over 8 years or whatever. And I've still got something like 60 something miles, I think 60, 70, which around town is fine because you're going out to eat, you're going to the grocery store, you're going to whatever. My daughter has a car charger, so I can easily go to my daughter's house that's 20 something miles away and have dinner or hang out for a couple hours, and that range is back within I don't know, 3 or 4 hours or whatever. It doesn't matter, I can make the round trip, and there's plenty of chargers all over town. Let me put that in the chat here. It's plugshare.com. Go on plugshare.com and see how many car chargers there are, which I guess is one caveat. There's a few different standards of like the plug that you put in. Generally, every car out there uses J1772. That's a standard plug pretty much everybody uses except for Tesla. Tesla has an adapter where they can use it, but those Tesla stations are not usable by the average car yet. I believe they've started putting in standard plugs. So even that limitation is going to go away. All those Tesla locations that you see are going to have plugs that are kind of the coming standard for fast charging, which is called CCS. Everybody's pretty much going to CCS. I believe Tesla has or is going to have a CCS adapter very soon stateside. So Tesla and CCS, and you might have to carry a little adapter with you. Big whoop. We could talk about adapters later if anybody tunes into this. So you might carry a couple adapters and you plug in. On that note, you probably will never have to plug in because you fill your car at home. You don't want to pay for electricity out on the road because it's going to be more expensive. It's not outrageously expensive. It's still cheaper than gas. When I went to Dallas, I've gone to Dallas, I've gone to Wichita Falls, I've gone to Florida. Overall, it's still cheaper than gas. And if you have relatives, you say, "Hey, can I plug my car in?" And then you can steal their electricity, and they don't know that you're taking $4 or $5 worth of electricity, but who cares? I mean, that's not anything. My Chevy Volt right now costs about $10 to fill up if it's dead empty, and that gets me about 250 miles. That's right. For about 2 gallons of gas, I can go 250 miles for the same price. Trust me, gas is never going to get back to be as cheap as it is to drive an electric car. So anyway, on to the point of this thing. Don't want to make this too long. Hopefully some people will drop into the chat and remind me to say things, and I will take a breath right now and take this opportunity to copy my Patreon link. It's just patreon.com/Rob Bullock. R-O-B, Bullock like Sandra. R-O-B, B-U-L-L-O-C-K. So I have like $1 subscription on there. So if you want to subscribe for a month or two and to cancel, cool. I make about 80 cents for everyone who subscribes for a month. But don't be like a subscriber that the other day said, "Hey, here's what I want," and then a few days later they're like, "Well, if you're not going to do what I want, I'm going to cancel." I'm like, "Well, thank you for your 80 cents. I'm sorry I didn't, jump when you cracked the whip for your 80 cents." Like, he was like, "Give me some specific investment advice on this type of setup." I'm like, "Dude, it's kind of not what I'm doing for 80 cents. It's kind of just to support me, and maybe if you'd asked and waited and not just say, 'Well, I'm unsubscribing if you're not doing it.'" I'm like, "Okay, fine, see ya." Anyway, so back to this thing. All right, so let's jump right in. If I was looking for a cheap car, we're going to talk about some of the ones I would consider purely electric. I would probably look at the Kia Soul EV. That one looks like these start at around the mid 990. I believe the rated on that. We can just Google this. You guys can Google it as well as I can. Rated range. I want to say it's like 106 miles. So if you got a really lead foot, and there's different ones too. These are newer ones. Yeah, the new ones are 310 miles. But that's a new one. We're wanting to know about cheap ones. Well, I can't find it. I'm pretty sure it's like 100 miles ish. It's like 106, which if you got a real lead foot, you get about 70 miles. Now this one has a built-in fast charger. You can charge this thing to 80%, in like 30 minutes. But again, honestly, I will tell you, even with the Nissan Leaf, which has less rated range than this, I never charge around town. You will get used to this. There's little tricks you can do, like you can air your tires up. A lot of people, when they're driving their electric car, they'll run it at 40 psi. Not a whole lot of downside on this to me. Like, if I was kind of looking, I would really give this some strong consideration, because to me it seems like it's got a little more range. It's still got the DC fast charger, and it's a larger car. It seems a little roomier to me. The Nissan Leaf is pretty roomy. So with that's about on Kia. Kia makes pretty decent cars. You can, once I presented this, you can go and Google ins and outs and do your own research. Mainly this is just to point out there's plenty of cheap electric cars out there. There's 362 Kias for sale just on cars.com. Nissan Leaf, that's going to have a whole lot more. Look at 2,600 Nissan Leaves for sale on cars.com. Now, again, like I mentioned, the downside on this is unless you have the newer chemistry, which I believe came out in 2015, and you can Google Nissan Leaf battery chemistry, to see what you have, and then if you have a used one, find out if it got that free swap, and then also there's a Bluetooth module that you could plug in with some software and see how much capacity you actually have. Again, if you Google this and research, you can find out this stuff. But look at these prices. $6,200. Now, the downside on something like this is the range is going to be limited for sure if it's got, that original battery in it. I mean, you might have like 30, 40 miles. I don't know. I mean, it just depends. Also, on the environment that it was in. If it was in a nice, cool environment, you may be okay. If you're bringing that car to Houston or Phoenix or something like that, don't bring those original batteries to Phoenix, because that's how they found out. The people in Phoenix that had these were really losing capacity very quickly. But as you can see, there's plenty of these early ones under 10 grand. So let's look at min-year of 2015. But I believe that's when the new battery chemistry came out. Okay, so these aren't horrible. And I can say, 70,000 miles for an electric car is not really that much. There's nothing to wear out. Nothing hardly to wear out except maybe the battery. I will say my heater stopped working, but I live in Houston. I actually went and just bought an electric blanket and I just put that in my lap. If it's really cold, most of the time you don't need it. You can just plug it into your cigarette lighter. Some of these did have heated seats. You could, find some heated seats in a junkyard and, retrofit those back in. Mine actually has the switch cutouts for that, but, the blanket's like $18 on Amazon, and I was just too lazy to do it. Although some nice black heated leather seats used that went in my Leaf would be pretty sweet. And I have like a grayish interior, so it would pretty well match. I don't know what colors you can get, but I'm pretty sure black's gonna be one of them. So anyway, well, that's not bad. Look at that, 53,000 miles, 12 grand. That's not bad. Let's bump it up a couple years and say, okay, 2017, a couple of years newer. Okay, so now you're getting probably into the price I probably personally would not pay. What about 2016? 2016. Okay, that's a maybe. 14,000. It's got 48,000 miles. That's not terribly. That's not bad. Look at this payment though. $186 a month. So what is that, like 30, 40 gallons a month now? 1,200 miles a month. If you're driving 1,200 miles a month, you're probably paying as much in gas as this car payment. Now, obviously, you've got to pay for the electricity, but it's way, way cheaper. I pay, I'm going to call it maybe 3.3 cents per mile. So if you had a car that got 50 miles to the gallon, that would be $1.65 gallon of gas. So you can see the amount of money that we're talking about here. Huge, huge savings. And occasionally, if you're out and about, like a lot of malls have free charging, so you can pick up free gasoline from here and there. If you're, super desperate, I guess you could just go up to the mall and charge your car and walk around and buy nothing and leave and come back home. Don't do that. Buy something. Be nice. But, you do what you got to do. On that note, most people don't realize there's a couple things on the charging, the way that you charge it at your house. You can use a regular outlet. On a regular outlet, though, it's going to be slow because it can't just put out that much juice. So you're going to get around 4 miles for every hour that you're on a regular outlet. And there's a regular outlet already in your garage, and most cars come with that little box. So you can plug it in as soon as you get it home from the dealer, and 8 hours overnight, pick up about 30 miles a night. Easy, 8 hours. Bumping up from that, you can get the little box that's 240 volt with more amperage, more power, so to speak, and those are like $200 on Amazon. Then you can get a laundry plug put in your garage, or maybe you've already got a laundry plug in your garage, and you'll be fine. That thing, about 16 miles or so for, let's be conservative, 13 miles for every hour. So overnight, you're going to pick up over 100 miles. Fine. Your Nissan Leaf will be full, probably. Every day. You never stop at a gas station. You never go inside and buy sodas. You don't buy candy bars. You don't buy crap at the gas station because you don't need to stop. And like I said, you don't care how many chargers are around town because you don't need to stop. Or if you've got an outlet at work, you can kind of bring the cable with you and sneak it into the outlet at work. So anyway, all right. Fiat 500e. I always thought these were really cool. These were dirt cheap when they came off lease. 2014, so 2017, about 5 years ago, these were coming off lease, and I think I saw these for like $7,000 with no miles on it. These things still have no miles on it because I don't believe any of these have the fast charger. So you definitely want to make sure this is within your charging capability. I believe these get 60, 70 miles now, which that's fine, especially if you can charge it at work. If it's 30 miles to work and you charge it for 8 hours, it's full again. and then it's 30 miles home, and you still have 25, 30 miles, enough to go get groceries, go get something to eat, whatever. Or you go in your house, you plug it in for a couple hours, then go out. You know what I'm saying? This all might take a little math, but once you just kind of build those little habits, it's not a big deal. When I got my Nissan Leaf, I just had a regular old outlet, nothing special to charge it with, and I was able to make it work. It was a little squeezy at times, but I made it work. Yes, just a smaller car. No huge downsides that I know of here. Other than that, I don't believe any of them have a fast charge. And when you're researching fast charge, DC is what you want, a DC fast charge. Some dealers will try and go, oh, it's fast. I'm like, no. Like, you're talking 6,600 watts versus like 50,000 watts. Like 7 times as much on a DC fast charge. Even when I go to the dealer, I'm like, hey, hurry, where's your fast charge? I don't see your fast charge. They're like, oh, it's right there. And it's the 6,600 watt. I'm like, that is not a fast charger. A fast charger is like 50,000 watts, pretty much minimum. Some of the Harley Davidson motorcycle dealers have chargers, and if you have a Chevy Volt like I do, that's the CCS. Now the Harley ones only charge at 24,000 watts, but that's still like 3.5 times what the little 240 volt ones are that you might have at your house. You know, if you're putting in, well, first, don't put in a charger at your house. Just buy one that plugs into an outlet and just have an outlet installed. Don't do a permanent mount because you don't need it. And also, if you were to go on a trip and you wanted to use it to charge at an RV park or something, you can just unplug it and take that with you. So then now you got to find an outlet. That's a whole different video there, but on mine, I have a 20 amp, which will get me probably 20 something miles per hour of charge, and I bought adapters where I could plug it in at RV parks. They're like 20 something bucks. It's kind of peace of mind. Honestly, the one I bought to plug into a dryer outlet, like the older dryer outlets before the year 2000, I think, like that style of plug, that's like 20 bucks. That one I'll probably use at some point to charge at like a relative's house when I go to a different state. Like, I'll just charge at their house. So here's one worthy of mention. This is my daughter's car, and this is kind of a whole class of what they call plug-in hybrids. Most of them, like the Prius, doesn't have a whole lot of range. The Chevy Volt, I'm going to put this in here only because it's got the most range. I believe the minimum is 40-something miles on pure electric, or 50-something miles on pure electric, depending on the one that you get. I believe I don't know when the crossover is, like to the 58-mile rated range, which is almost like kind of who cares, because then it kicks over to gas, and it's less expensive. Now, the one thing to watch out for on this, there's no fast charge, so if you run out, you're going to be using gas, or charging slowly, or whatever. And the earlier ones that didn't have like the bigger battery, the higher range, those required premium. Which, again, if you're not using much gas, if you're only driving, let's say, 5 to 10 miles on gas out of the 45 that you drive every day or whatever, you know, let's say you drive 60 miles a day and 40 something of it is electric, it's still not too bad, but you know, it's a small consideration. I personally would get the Generation 2 or whatever that has the larger battery and that will run on regular gas, that does not require premium. Like I said, my daughter's got this car. It's a little small in the back seat. It's a fun, sporty, nice little car. She likes to come over here and plug it in and fill it up and steal my electricity. So it costs me something like, I don't know, $2 or $3 every time she comes over. So anyway, at least you got that capability. You can steal electricity from your parents or relatives or whatever. Let's see. Chevy Volt. This is what I got. So the big change here was that 2020, the first year, they bumped the capacity about 10%. So the rated 259 miles. You can go from Houston to Dallas without recharging. Really, there's 4 charging spots and 2 RV parks in the middle. You got 6 places to charge. It's like 200 and something miles. Not a big deal. One of those places will probably be available. Worst case, you could just plug it into a regular outlet for 4 hours or whatever. I mean, that would suck, but you see my point. yeah, it's probably not going to happen that you're worried about it. And then when you book your hotel, whenever you're booking hotels, you'll find yourself looking for hotels that have chargers. I stayed at one in Dallas that had a charger, so the whole time we drove around Dallas was free. And then when I got there, I wasn't full. I had 70 miles left or whatever because I charged once, I believe. They will fill it up. Got that whole 180 miles for free. Drove around Dallas, kept it full the whole time. Got ready to go home, filled it up. I charged once on the way home. It's good to go. So anyway, they still aren't horrible at 19,550 is the cheapest one. Probably the two major things to watch out for in the Chevy Volt. There is a recall for batteries. All of them are getting a new battery. There were some fires. I think there was like 14 or 16 out of over 100,000 of them. So, okay, the odds aren't very high. And I personally think the 2020 and later had different batteries types altogether, so I don't think the risk is as high. But everybody's getting a new battery. But these things, I believe the new one, whatever, you can look it up. I believe the new Chevy Bolt, brand new retail is like 26 or 27, like brand new. The second thing to watch out for these is some of these do not have the DC fast charger. The way to tell, if you open the charging port and you look, there's two little extra wire holes at the bottom of the charger. You'll see like a circle and then two little bits at the bottom, and I believe there's an orange cover. But anyway, if it doesn't have two holes and a larger plug wouldn't fit in there, shaped kind of like an avocado and not round. Round is the slower, 26 miles per hour or whatever. If it doesn't have those two extra connectors at the bottom, you can Google all this. Don't get it. Because it was only a $750 option. It's really stupid of Chevy to even make that an option. They all should have come with that. That's what you want, fast charging. That'll fill you to 80%, if you're traveling on the road in about 30 minutes. So 200 miles in 30 minutes. Usually when I stop, I'll put like 100 miles in it because I usually don't take it that far. So that should give you 300 and something miles. Most of my relatives live within that radius anyway. If I was going on a super long trip, I would take a truck or maybe even rent a car or something else. It's not horrible. I took it from Texas to Florida, but I stayed in Baton Rouge at a hotel because I had relatives there, and then I stayed in Mississippi with relatives there. That one, we were there for 2 or 3 days, and I actually filled it up off just a 110-volt outlet. It took like 30 hours, but we're going to be there anyway, and eventually it was full, and we went on to Florida, etc., and the hotel in Florida had chargers, so it was a little bit of a pain, but really not that much. Once you get used to doing math is good. So anyway, this 200 and something miles around town is fine. You're never, I guess maybe you could use 200 and something miles, but yeah, there's also other cars coming out. So for 20 grand, I'd probably just get a new one for $7,000 more. These cars are 6 years old almost now, 4 or 5 years old. I'd spend the extra 7 grand. And then there's the Bolt EUV that's brand new, but there's only like 2 model years of that. It's only like $2,000 more, so like 29 or something. I think they're all under 30. You can't get a Tesla brand new for under 30. And I know Tesla's really fast, but there's other, if you're spending that kind of money, then this is not that conversation. You're spending Tesla money. There's other cars that are still cheaper than Tesla that you can buy that are still very fast to charge to me. And there's auto driving, like the new Bolt EUV has Super Cruise. It's kind of like an autopilot, not quite as good as the Tesla, but also way cheaper than the Tesla. It's gonna get to the point with electric cars where, like, for like $1,000 more you get this, and for $2,000 more you get that, and then for $3,000, like everything's gonna be incremental. 2,000, 5,000, 3,000. Not like a whole lot of money when you're paying over 5 years. You just got to kind of pick your price and things that you have to have, but it's eventually going to get to that point where you can just, start here down at $7,000 and work your way up, depending on what you want. Now, Chevy Spark EV. I don't know a ton about this car. I believe the 2LT trims all had the DC fast charger. The range is similar. All these early cars, in the early teens, 20 teens, all are going to have around 60, 70 something mile range, which the average person only drives like 35 miles each way to work. So you're probably good. I mean, you're probably good for most of your driving. The only cool thing I will say about that is I think these things had like 400 foot-pounds of torque. It was ridiculous how much torque these things has. It's really bizarre almost. But interesting. So maybe, I mean, it's not outrageous. 41,000 miles, $11,000. Okay, do your research. Check it out. I mean, it's kind of a smaller car, as you can see from the second picture here. But for this kind of money, I mean, as much as gas is, and for just getting groceries and going out to eat, and a lot of the little driving stuff that you do, sure, none of these are supposed to be long-range commuter cars, in my opinion, except maybe the Bolt, and then obviously the Volt, since you can use gas. Speaking of the Volt, here's the other one I'm gonna mention because I thought it was cool. Now the thing on this, these only go like 21 or 26 miles on electric before the gas motor kicks in. But the neat thing about it, and that might be the bulk of your driving for one way at least, and you get to work and you plug it into a regular outlet, I guess you can have California. It counts as an electric car for California. I don't know. The cool thing about this was a mid-size car, and you could still drive it a lot on electric, and you can kind of see, from these prices, or from the mileage, like how much these have been used. I mean, the cheapest one's got over 100,000 miles. Is that good? I don't know. Not going to be any fast charging here either, but you don't need it because you can put gas in it. It's not horrible. Price-wise, all of them have a lot of mileage, and you can see that's probably a sweet spot. 93,000 miles, 13 grand. That's probably a pretty sweet one. Again, you can go on cars.com after you enroll on patreon.com/Rob, R-O-B, Bullock, B-U-L-L-O-Z-K, like Sandra, Rob Bullock, and give me $1, give me 80 cents with your $1 subscription. This one, the Fusion 2014 for 86, 14 grand. And you can probably work these down a little bit on prices. Let's, 4 rated per, Auto Show USA, whatever. A lot of these probably aren't going to be, Largo Honda. It's a Honda place at least. But you can see these got driven a lot because people are still probably driving a fair percentage of them on electric. I think my daughter's equivalent gas mileage, she was getting 105 miles per gallon on her Volt because most of the time she was on electricity. So for every gallon of gas that she burned, she went 105 miles. So that means it was mostly on electricity. Probably mostly my electricity. Anyway, so yeah, Ford Energy range, 26 miles. Okay, so I guess 21. I was thinking 21. So the 2019 is 26, and then 21 on the Fusion Energy. Ford Focus, downside here is no fast charging. I don't think any of these had fast charging. But it was about that 26 miles per hour of charge and 60, 70 miles. Again, pretty standard. Mileages are a little lower because you don't have, that's pretty decent. 2014, 37,000 miles for 12.3. So that means if you went in and said, I'll give you 12 grand, probably walk out the door with it. Neat thing about it is a larger car. It's like a Ford Focus. To me, that is a little bit of larger car, certainly larger than the Spark and the Fiat. I can't think of any downsides here. You can tell this model did not sell a ton because there's only 450 available. And since we're talking about that before we get to the Aptera, which I've put my deposit down on an Aptera, message me on Twitter or something. I'm Real Actor Rob. Real Actor Rob. I'll put that in the chat. Message me on Twitter if you're gonna buy an Aptera. If you're gonna put a deposit down on it, then I have a referral link, and I can get a discount on mine. You can put a deposit on it, I think $100, and if you want my referral link, I think the deposit's only $70 to get in line for one. So you know, I think personally, I'm thinking 2023 before you see too many deliveries, maybe as late as 2024. So it's not like you got to buy one uh, anytime soon. But that is a neat car with some compromises, but I think it's pretty smart, and I think they're going to sell a lot of them, especially as a commuter car and a grocery getter car. But we'll talk about that in a second. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. I was going to look at the numbers sold. So, you know, when we can kind of judge by the number on cars.com as to how popular these models were, which is going to dictate, you know, getting parts and things like that. Because if it's really popular, you know, there's going to be more of a parts store for it. Oh, and on that note, on the Nissan Leaf, I know they make a kit to swap in, they get used 30 kilowatt hour batteries. So the Nissan Leaf stock had 24, so it's 25% bigger. You can put that into the Nissan Leaf, and theoretical, if it was totally full, you probably look at over 100-mile range pretty easy with a decent one that hasn't aged too much at 30 kilowatt hour, over 100 miles. It's probably cover most people's commute. When my capacity really drops, I'm hoping there's a lot of those 30 kilowatt hour batteries floating around there. I know there's a 40 also, but I don't know if you can put the 40 in like the very early models, but I'm 99% certain you can up your capacity by 25% in the earlier models. Anyway, Google that. Replacement Nissan Leaf batteries used. 30 kilowatt hour. On that note, 30 kilowatt hours is kind of like their gas tank size. So like, let's say you had a 100 kilowatt hour battery and you got 4 miles per kilowatt hour. That would give you about 400 miles. So you can kind of figure out most electric cars, and unless you're lead foot, you get about 4 miles per kilowatt hour, which for me is like 4 cents a mile, I guess. That's kind of like worst case, 4 cents a mile. Once again, Google that. It's getting hot in here. I got the fans off. So let's see. Okay, so Kia Soul 362 for sale. Nissan Leaf 887, but we had some caveats there. It was a lot. It was thousands of those. 500E, 138 matches. A little note, Chrysler lost a ton of money because Fiat was owned by Chrysler. They lost a ton of money on every one they sold. Like, I think they lost like $12,000 on these. Chevy Volt. It's popular because you have a fairly long battery range, and then you can kick over to gas. So 1,200 of those available. These are all cheap electric cars, and there's a fair amount of them out there. 344 on the Bolt EV, because that's fairly new. 2017 was the first model year, so we've only got like 7 model years. So it didn't come out till, what was that, 6 years after the Leaf. Pretty long time. $699. I'm a little surprised at that, or everybody hates them, and so they're all selling them. But there's 700 of those. Fusion was 1,300 of them. Again, probably pretty popular, like the Volt, because there's roughly about the same number for sale. Again, larger car than even the Volt was. The Volt, and great naming, right? Volt and Bolt. The Volt is probably that's definitely a midsize. Actually, the Nissan Leaf is considered a midsize based on the dimensions. So anyway, I always kind of like these. Actually, test drove when we really kind of looked at one, but we ended up getting the Bolt instead just because it's such relatively huge range. I only charge mine to 60% because that gets me like 160 miles. That's more than I need around town, and it makes your battery last longer. Like, I'm gonna get eventually my battery replaced, but you know, if you're able to set that in your car to 60%, it will make your battery last longer. Lots of tips in this video. We're up to 35 minutes. You're going to have to watch the whole thing to get all these tips in there. Ford Focus. Okay. So anyway, so this is what I've put my money down on, is the Aptera. Now there's a couple things. Let's go ahead and click reserve so you can look. Yeah, this is like futuristic sci-fi. This thing is probably over twice as efficient. Yeah, no, I believe that's the figure. It's over twice as efficient as my Nissan Leaf. So this thing is dirt cheap, and it's got solar panels, and there's enough solar panels to actually, I believe they say up to 40 miles per day just of charging through the solar. So there's a fair amount of them, and you can put them all over the car, but it's so efficient that translates to like 40 miles a day. And they start at 25 and go up to 50 with absolutely everything. Yeah, there you go. So it's between 16 and 40. I think there's even the basest, cheapest model with 250 miles of range, which is probably fine for driving around, and it sits in the sun all day. If it sits in the sun, you get another 10 miles or whatever, worst case. Worst case, 0 to 60, 5.5. Pretty quick. There's an all-wheel drive. It's a 3-wheel car. So let's just go ahead and act like we're buying one. Silver or white. Let's say silver. And then because that's going to be cooler in the sun. And you can have 4 different battery ranges here up to this crazy 1,000-mile range. I guess if you're going to drive cross country and you need to go 1,000 miles before you get out of the car. Plus whatever you pick up on the solar during that 1,000 miles of driving. During that 15 hours or whatever you would be in the car. You do that, not me. Not really too bad on the mileage. I believe we did the 600, which honestly, that's an easy, probably 7 hours. It's gotta be 7-8 hours to run that thing out. I probably want to get out of the car anyway at that point. Plus whatever mileage I picked up. But anyway, so I think the 400 is probably reasonable, for 4,000 more, 3,900 more dollars. Solar power, yeah, just do all. $900. This is also going to help me because I'm burning more of I have solar on my house. I'm burning more of my solar power from the house on cars because they're not as efficient as this thing is going to be. Plus, it's going to be able to charge itself to some degree if I can bring myself to leave it outside. I'm hoping that it kind of cools itself, at least I believe I think it blows air through itself at least to keep it from getting too hot. All-wheel drive, personally, nah. 5.5 seconds fast enough. $2,500, I'll put that in my pocket. And then you pick your interior. So you can go on that, Upterra.us. Let me go ahead and put my referral in the chat here. If you go to this YouTube link, youtube.com/rcbullock, and leave a comment on any of my videos, I'll see it. And I'll give you a response. I respond to almost 100% of the comments I get, even though they're not all great comments. There's no such thing as a stupid question. There's only stupid people asking questions. They're out there. Alright, okay, so here's a referral link. Let me make sure this works on my other browser here. Okay, I think that works. Popped up into stuff. And things are loading. Okay, I think that's a proper referral fee. So let me get back over here and paste that into the chat. I believe, like I say, with that, it says $100. I don't know. I might have to fix that. Whatever. Leave a comment if you need a new referral fee. I was having some trouble the other day with it. It's a long story. I'm not going to sweat it either way, because you can go on Patreon and give me some dollars or something. I'd be happy with that too. Alright, so I got to go. Getting time for a bathroom break. Think dinner's getting ready. Hope this stuff helped. I know we went through a lot of stuff. This will eventually end up on YouTube, and you'll be able to leave comments there. So don't forget to like and subscribe and comment. Visit my YouTube channel and give me a like and subscribe. I've kind of really bummed at YouTube lately because they don't pay you for ads. They show ads on my videos. I've got videos that have 30, 40,000 hits, and they've paid me $0 in ad money. And if you subscribe, I can finally start getting paid. I need 1,000 subscribers and some more views and stuff, and I'm really close. In 2 or 3 months, I'm gonna have that. So thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the YouTube, hit the Patreon. See ya.